Well, good morning, councillors. This is the meeting of the Planning Committee of the 25th of September 2020, and I'm chairing this meeting. My name is Councillor Ellis Harewood. I'm councillor for the Western Ivy. This meeting that is held remotely will be broadcasted on YouTube and can be viewed on the Macclesfield Town Council YouTube.com channel. Thank you for coming. Our first meeting on the agenda is apologies for absence.
Councillor Roberts and Councillor Edwards would join us as soon as he can.
Thank you. And the second item is declarations of interest. Can we have declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. We have no member of the public, have we? No, so we will go straight on to item 3 of the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting held on the 4th of September to consider the draft minutes as a true record of the meeting. Would anybody like to move that? Thank you, Councillor Wilson and Councillor Jackson. Can we agree to that? Any apologies? Abstentions, I mean.
No, it was.
Are you voting, Councillor Hutchinson?
He's not a member of the committee, so.
Right, okay. All right, okay, thank you. Any matters arising from those minutes? No. Well, we go straight on to the observation on the planning applications. As you know, we are just observations, and we will note those observations and take them where they have to go. So we start with application number 20/3758M, and that's a variation of conditions at All Saints Church. Does anybody want to speak? Councillor Jackson, yes.
Thank you, Chairman. This is on Central Ward and concerning All Saints Church. It is the variation of condition 2 is that there are changes to the original plans. They are not particularly significant, but there is a little increase in the height of the building, and there are now dormers been placed in the roof line of the building. So there is a change there. But I have no objection, but this would be subject to the Conservation Officer report. I'm happy to, to make that comment there. Thank you.
Okay. So we have listed those comments, have we?
Well, as I say, it would be subject to the Conservation Officer approval.
Otherwise, we have no objections there.
No objection, no.
Thank you. We go on to application number 20/376M, and that is on Valley Road. It's proposed demolition and rear extension to form new pitch roof, extension and replacement of existing flat roof with new side pitch roof with internal alterations to form large bedroom 2 and garage conversion to form ensuite and study. Now this is a huge thing, but what can we say about that? Was it Councillor Edwards who would have spoken on Valley Road?
This is a South Ward application.
Right. Have we anything to say about those
Councillor
changes?
Wilson would like to speak.
Yes. Yeah, Councillor Wilson would like to speak.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It is on South Ward and I have no objection.
No objection. Okay. Nobody has any objection. No objection. Application 20/2788M, and that is Craig Road and proposed extension to first floor to create additional living space.
No objection, Chair.
No objection at all. No objection. Application 20/3817M, and that was a prior approval for a larger home extension to the rear elevation at West Park Drive. No objection.
No objection, no.
Application 20/3774M, and that is the alteration to existing shop front and insertion of windows and roof lights on Mill Street, Macclesfield, 42 to 44.
This is on Central Ward. Again, I have no objection. It is actually the property which is next door to Boots the optician, and has had a number of owners in the past, is vacant at the moment, I believe. But this will be nice to just see it refurbed and hopefully a new owner coming in. So
Okay.
no objection.
No objection. Application 20/3096M, and that's conversion of an existing dormer bungalow to a two-story house, including double-story side extension on 141 Presby Road. Did we have this before? Did we
No.
have this application before?
No, no objection.
Councillor Jackson?
Yes, I have
So,
no objection.
is there anything you wish to say about that?
Thank you,
Yes.
Chair. Thank you, Chair. Yes, to follow on to Councillor Wilson, yes, I also have no objection, but I would like it noted that this would be subject to a batch survey being carried out prior to the planning consent being agreed. The Nature Conservation Officer has made that comment, and I think we should support it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And application now 20/376M at a proposed dwelling at plot north of 78 Beach Lane, Macclesfield. Yes, Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Chairman. Have a look at, I really have grave concerns with this application. I feel that it's a cramped development, that it is the design is out of keeping with the character of the area and the neighbouring properties. I have real concern that the 5 bedrooms, they're all quite small. They all have ensuite facilities, plus another 2 toilet stroke shower rooms elsewhere in the property. So to me, this isn't a normal residential property. So I have concerns about that. And I also have highway concerns with the undercroft parking, that it is so cramped that access to it and access out of it, I feel that the vehicles would have to be backing in and backing out onto a very busy main road. So there's a number of concerns there, and I'm afraid I couldn't support this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Wilson.
Yes, I second Councillor Jackson's comments and propose that we object to this application on various grounds. The highway issue is one of the key ones. It's difficult to see how vehicles on Beach Lane can safely enter and exit this property. There isn't room for a turning circle. The car park is parking is underneath the property. I also feel we're seeing increasing numbers of properties like this where all the bedrooms have suite provision, and the worry is that these are then converted to homes of multiple occupancy, which is something that we have grave concerns about. At our last meeting we had a detailed discussion about homes of multiple occupancy and how they should be far more greatly regulated. And I think that the final point is that I think that the plans for this property are, as Councillor Jackson said, out of keeping with the the neighbourhood generally. So I would second the proposal that we object to this application on those 3 grounds.
I'm afraid I do agree with the cramped and the only bit of green around there. Very, very cramped. And so I'll agree that we object to it on those grounds. Have we, what's the writing we will put down on those?
So
Cramped development.
Sorry, Chair. Councillor Wilson proposed that the committee objects on the grounds of highway issues, unsafe exiting from the property. It's out of keeping with the area, the design is, it's a small site for the size of the development. Sorry, that was what Councillor Jackson had said earlier. And there are concerns about the potential for the property to convert it into an HMO.
Would cramped development not hold? Will this closeness of overdevelopment not hold as a concern rather than as a future use? This overdevelopment, well, cramped will cover it, but it's claustrophobic. Will that not hold us?
Chairman, I think usually the grounds, I mean, I said a cramped development, but it could be, we could say that it's overdevelopment of the site. You know, it is the proposal is too large
for that small area
and overdevelopment. Something wording to that. Yeah.
Councillor Wilson, would you like that adding to your proposal?
Yes, I'm happy with that.
Right. Okay. Right. So do we have a seconder for that?
Councillor Jackson.
Okay. And we put that to the vote?
Yes, we put that to the vote.
Yeah. 4. Right.
4.
There we are. That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. We go on to 20/3840M, and that's a proposed 2-story side extension on 51 Arlington Drive. Any objections?
No objections.
No objections. Next is 20/3871M, alteration extension to house, 78 Delamere Drive. Any objections?
No objection, Chairman.
Objections. Then we go on to 20/3868M, single-story rear extension at 3 Chepstow Close.
Again, no objection, Chairman.
That's 3 extensions. Then we go to 20/3930M, proposed single-story rear extension to form a larger kitchen, dining and snug, 178 Oxford Road. Councillor Jackson, did this come in before?
No, and this is an application for Western Ivy Ward. The boundary between Central and Western Ivy runs actually down Oxford Road, and one side is in Central, the other side is in Western Ivy. But as I'm speaking, I have no objection.
No, I have no objection. Then the last extension on this page is on the single-story rear extension on 53/20/3951M on 53 Hawthorne Way, Macclesfield.
No objection, Chairman.
No objection. On page 4, we go to application 20/3948M, single-story extension on 67 Ullswater. No objection.
There's no objection from myself as the ward councillor. The property itself has a slightly larger roof. The roof's like a sort of barn type roof rather than a pointy roof. But looking at the plans, the actual addition to the height is about half a person's height rather than it looks higher than it's going to be, if that makes sense. So I've looked and seen if there's any objections, not been contacted by any residents about this, so I would say no objections. We're very near the closing date anyway, so if there were any objections, they would have come in by now, I would have thought.
The next one is 20/3430 M, proposed first floor side extension over existing garage and two-story extension to rear of garage to form garage conversions to study and utility, and larger rear kitchen dining area with floor, additional bedroom with ensuite and dressing area, 11 Birches Croft Drive. No objection? No objection. No objection. Application 20/3908 M, demolition of existing garage and new dwelling in grounds of existing dwelling with associate relocation of parking for existing dwelling. And that's 95 Byron's Lane. Yes, Councillor.
Yes, thanks, Chair. This is this property on Byron's Lane is on South Ward, and the property is set back from the road quite significantly by a long, quite narrow access drive. So what the residents are doing is they are putting in better parking facilities, and they're building an additional property on the plot. And I have no objection to this development.
Okay, no objection. No
Can
objection.
I, Chairman,
Yes.
just make a comment? I support that. I think the design is in keeping with the area, and the building associated with this application is a locally listed building. So, you know, we have to be mindful of the impact on a heritage building, and I think it's a sympathetic development, and I have no objection.
It's not a heritage building, is it?
It is a locally listed building, Chairman.
Locally listed.
Yeah.
Okay.
As a matter of interest, it's actually a locally listed form of school. Because I dug around a bit more when I saw the application just to check there weren't any conservation issues, but this is not a conservation area. So it's a building, as Councillor Jackson said, it's a building of some local interest.
Yeah.
But in case of this development, the actual proposals are fully in keeping with the local area. It's not out of character in any way. So I have no objections.
No objection. Thank you. The next application is 20/3941 M, and that is 5 Melbourne Close to extend the driveway by block paving both patches of lawn at the front of the house. Which, does anybody want to say anything? Yes, Councillor Jackson.
Yes, I'll speak on this one. I'm just a bit concerned about this removal of the lawned areas in front of the property. It's an open plan estate, and the green areas are there for a reason, really.
Sure.
to keep it open, give it some greenery. And I'm surprised that this applicant has come in with this suggestion, because usually on estates there are controls over these matters, and residents aren't able to actually brick over their front
Driveways.
like this, you know, put block paving in. So I'm just concerned about that, the impact that this would have on possible flooding. You know, this acts as the green lawns act as a soak away, so there's a concern there. And also there is no mention of how they would deal with the lamppost that is part of that application site. The tree, unfortunately, that would go, but the lamppost, there's no mention. And so I would certainly like something said in our response about the lamppost, and that they ensure that there's no damage to the lamppost, and maybe some wording as to how would they actually protect that lamppost and ensure that it's made safe while they're making those alterations. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Wilson. Councillor, oh yes, you.
You're just unmuting. Yeah, wasn't quick enough. Thanks, Chair. I mean, I think these issues are very difficult issues, as Councillor Jackson said, because removing the lawned area in front of this property is going to lead to less potential for soak away if there's heavy rain. And I think we all need to be very alive and concerned about flooding issues. And part of the reason for us having our Forest for the Future project is to plant more trees and encourage more greenery to help prevent flooding and also to assist with air quality issues. I can fully understand why residents do want to increase the parking outside their property, because anywhere you go in Macclesfield, parking is a problem. We all as councils have massive post bags, as it were, about parking. So I can easily see why the residents would want to increase the ability to park on their property. And to be fair, taking cars off the road onto houses does, hopefully at the end of the day, remove the need for parking on the street and prevents emergency vehicles getting through and things like that. So I think what I would ask is that the questions that Councillor Jackson's raised, I think we need to raise those questions. I don't see there's a material planning objection here we could make, but I do think we should raise questions. And certainly one of the questions I would raise with the planning officer is whether in fact this application and the development proposed is permissible in terms of
definitely
in terms of the provision for purchasing the property from the developers, because I will be interested to see what the outcome is, because generally with new developments there's quite a few you know, caveats there to say you can't do things like this. So I think that does need checking out by the planning officer.
How will we go about this? Because I think Councillor Wilson is right in this complete block paving. What policies are they with these properties? If I've seen blocks of like footprint blocks to walk across those, but have we got something where we could positively say that block paving is against the policies of these properties? Yeah.
I mean, Matt, well, I think you're quite correct, Karen, that there is no policy that we could say you can't do this because, but I do think that we've raised genuine concerns about the proposal.
Sure.
And we are, as a planning committee, I believe, able to ask the planning department when they're considering this application.
Sure. That's what I was saying.
Look at things, and I think that both Councillor Jackson and I've made the point about whether it's permissible under the
sorry, didn't want to cut across you. I'm sure you're right. Can we put that in as a report that we would like to? Are we able to find out if that is within the policies of these areas? Are we able to do this? Yes, Councillor Wilson.
I think we are able to ask the planning officer to consider the concerns we've raised, namely the lamppost, whether the lease/freehold arrangements permit this sort of change, and also, excuse me, concerns about removing areas of soak away and the potential impact on the surrounding area. I mean, just looking at the list of material planning considerations I always have handy in our meetings, I think that there is an adverse impact on nature conservation interests, but I think it's stretching it a little bit to say the removal of 2 bits of grass are that much of an impact. So I think our course of action here should be agreed to ask the planning officer to consider those 3 issues when they look at it, and then of course the planning officer will be well aware of what planning policies are.
Yeah, thank you. So we will end up by referring back to the planning officer.
Would you like me to return that the committee does not support the application? And
we do not support it as it is.
Are you all in agreement with that, though? Have I understood your
comments?
Yeah.
Councillor Wilson, would you like to unmute yourself and say yes, Councillor Jackson?
Can I just say, Chan, it's not so much that we object to it. it is just that we have some concerns.
Concerns about it.
Right.
Some would like our questions being clarified to just, you know, for further reassurance, or you know, however we want to word it.
Sure.
I don't think we're objecting to it, because I don't believe that there are any specific planning grounds to object, but I think I'm speaking for the whole committee here, that we do have concerns, and we've expressed those concerns. The potential flooding with soakaway. Does this applicant actually have permission to do this from because of maybe some restrictions on the development, you know, so that needs to be checked out. And also the concern about the lamppost which is in that on the application site, and how that is going to be protected while they do the work. So it's more that really than we object. It's just that we think there are areas that need clarifying.
From the planning officer?
Mm.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to.
Yeah.
By the planning officer, we need that area, those areas to be clarified by the planning officer. So it's a reference back to the planning officer. Yeah. Thank you. Application 20/38M95M, and this is the proposed 3-story, 3-bed townhouse on the site of Step Hill. Yes, Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Chairman. This application on Step Hill is in Central Ward, and I've noted it's in a conservation area, so we have to take great care in the design of properties that are built in the conservation area. And the conservation area officer, I'm not sure whether he's actually reported on this yet, but I believe he has, yes. And he is objecting to this on the grounds that the design of the property, proposed property, is out of keeping with the conservation area. It's in a terrace amongst other heritage buildings, and it would be totally out of keeping with them. And so my view is that we object to this on those grounds that it is out of character with the design is out of character with the conservation area. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody want to second that? Councillor Wilson.
Yes, I second Councillor Jackson's proposal to object to this development for the reasons
out of keeping.
For the reasons stated, yes. Is in a conservation area.
Shall we have a vote on that? You ready to vote on that? Application, that's the next one, it's 20/3994M, installation of shipping container alongside existing container adjacent to 11 garage, and that's a retrospective application. On Fountain Street. Any speakers? Yes, Councillor Jackson.
Yes, I have no objection to this. Apparently, from reading the application, it appears the applicant had sought advice and been told that they didn't need a planning application for this, so went ahead with it and then discovered they did need a planning application. So hence why it's retrospective, because obviously we don't, you know, it's not approved really to be coming for retrospective permission, and councils frown on that. But obviously in this instance, it's quite understandable mistake that was made, and so I have no objection to this. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, no objection. Before we go, Councillor Jackson, can I ask, do you know how long that shipping, do we know how long the shipping containers must have been there for a while?
I'm afraid I couldn't tell you,
No,
Chairman.
you
It's not my ward. It's not an
Okay.
area that I visit particularly.
Application 20/3501M and proposed domestic proposed domestic garages, land off back Paradise Street. Do we have any speakers? Yes, Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a really difficult one to form a view on, really. I know that in the past there has been an application here for a dwelling which was refused. It's an unadopted road. It's very rough and uneven, and to look at it, you would think, how could anybody possibly put a building on it? You know, it doesn't look a site that's appropriate for a building, be it garages or whatever. And I know there are concerns have been raised by neighbours. They're worried about their access to their properties across the land. And I find it's difficult to give planning grounds to refuse this, but I personally don't think it's an appropriate area for these garages. It then reduces the back Paradise Street, reduces that street down to what looks to be a single track for vehicles. And I'm not convinced that people with their vehicles would be able to actually gain access into these garages. Now, the point's been made by residents that the garages are so narrow that people driving a car in wouldn't then be able to open the doors and get out of the vehicle. But that isn't an issue that we can really refuse this, or at least, you know, object to this on. But I think it's the access to it appears to be very narrow, and there doesn't appear to be a great turning area for the vehicles to get into these garages. So I'm not going to move anything, but all I will say is I am very concerned, and I don't feel, as the ward councillor, that I can support this application, given the history of it with other applications being sought and refused. And I do feel, in a way, this could be the thin end of the wedge to be given permission for garages, and then once that's been, or if that was agreed, then possibly something else may follow on. That's not a, you know, that's just my view, and it's not a genuine planning reason at all to refuse it. But I do have real concerns about this, and I'm afraid I can't support it. But I'm you know, happy to see what other councillors feel about this and how they want to take this forward. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Does anybody else? I feel that the number I am concerned of the number of garages on the site, the number, because the space of the garages, and I would like to raise that 3 garages may be one too many. And the number of garages, given the access that has been mentioned, given the terrain that has been mentioned, and the size, we would be concerned that the size of the garages meets the need of modern vehicles, I am not convinced that 3 are not too many. So while we have those concerns of the number, the terrain, and the entrance to the use of them, do they meet modern standards of cars? I would like to put that concern in, because I mean 3 seems a lot in a poor patch of ground. So shall we say we have concerns about the number, the terrain, and the exit and entrance to that area of the ground. Is that a no objection or just concerns?
Councillor Wilson wanted to speak.
Yes, Councillor Wilson.
I mean, I think that there are potential grounds for us to object here from a planning point of view. Now we've discussed it through, I think in terms of vehicle access, which would be a material planning consideration, the garages are so small, it is difficult to see how somebody once in the vehicle could get out of the vehicle. The terrain leading up to the garages is also difficult. So I think there is a planning objection in terms of highways issues about vehicular access. I think there's also an issue about overdevelopment, because as Councillor Jackson and Councillor Hare would have said, you know, if the application was for 2 garages, I think there would have been a bit more support for it in terms of what they seem to be putting up garages that can't be used as garages, and that leads to concerns about, you know, what the potential long-term future of this site is. I mean, maybe storage. People, I mean, I think part of the problem with parking is people don't get cars in the garages. They use the garages for storage, so it is possible that it's a storage issue rather than you know, anything else. But I think there's 2 grounds there we could object, or if we don't wish to object, we could say we don't support it and we seek clarification.
Because I don't think we do.
We could seek clarification about highways issues and overdevelopment of the area.
Yeah. So we do not support it on those grounds: overdevelopment and access. I think those are worthy grounds for not supporting. Thank you.
Are you in agreement with that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are we voting on that? Overdevelopment, we're not supporting it on those grounds: overdevelopment and access. I'll call for a vote then. Can we vote on that?
Do we have a seconder though first, please?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have we got a second?
Yeah,
Have we
Councillor
got?
Jackson.
Thank you. We don't support that. The next one is a single-story side extension on 3 Thornton Avenue, Macclesfield.
No objections, Chair.
No objection to that. And application 20/4025M, variation of condition on a listed building consent on Birch House. Councillor Jackson?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Again, this is on Central Ward. It's for people who know the property. It's just across the way from Christchurch, and it's in that conservation area. It's been a grand building in the past, and was allowed to get into quite a poor state. And work has been going on over the last number of years, actually, to bring it back into a decent state of repair and convert it to 8 residential units. And this variation of condition too is really just some changes and really reasonably minor changes to the internal area of the property and the refurbishment of it. It's a Grade 2 listed building. So as I say, it's a grand building and in the conservation area. The conservation officer supports this variations to this condition. So I have no objection, Chairman.
Okay, no objection. No objection. Well, that's the end of the applications, and we go to number 6, which is the conservation area review. Does anybody want to speak on that?
Would you like me to give the committee an update? The invitation to tender is prepared, finalised, and has been publicised according to the council standing orders for procurement.
Thank you. And number 7, any
Chairman,
yes,
could the admin manager could she just clarify with us for information when the closing date?
It's the middle of November.
Thank you.
I'll put the precise date in the minutes for you, but I think it's the 20th of November.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 7, town character assessment. Any further considerations of the town character assessment? Yes, Councillor Wilson.
Yes, I want to thank the Admin and Governance Manager for working closely with our colleagues at Cheshire East Council Planning Department in producing the documentation that we now have in front of us to work on developing the town character assessment. Clearly, it's important that work we do on this planning policy as a planning committee works and sits within the planning policies that are already in place in Cheshire East Council, and of course national planning policies. And I think that now we have the documentation available, I would suggest that we ask for a meeting with the Cheshire East Council Planning and Neighbourhood Planning team for us to sit and work our way through the documentation that's been produced to start work on actually determining what our character assessment can actually cover. Thank you.
Thank you. And one of the items, of course, which I would mention again and again is the support to HMOs. We want to identify what that support entails, or what does he mean by supporting. And I think that should come up as it is already, I asked for the item to be brought up and identified and held at the full council to be referred to Cheshire East, because we want to know what does he mean by supporting HMOs in that document. So I would like to just say that, because yes, Councillor Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think at our last meeting we made a very clear decision about homes of multiple occupancy, and that is going to our own full council in the future. And we have included in our character assessment, as we've discussed in the past, homes for multiple occupancy. And I think that in that discussion, it's my view that we will be setting down very, very strict guidelines about HMOs, rather than supporting them. I don't know the document to which you're referring, where it says that Cheshire East are supporting HMOs. So we need to look at that. But certainly from our character assessment point of view, we've taken a very clear view that we will be including policy positions on HMOs in our character assessment. And we also at our last meeting made it clear how we thought the restrictions should be tightened up. On a separate issue, the document that the Admin and Governance Manager has produced has mentioned quite rightly that the Site Allocations and Development Policies document, the SADPD, is now in the process of final adoption. There's been a big consultation that we participated in, has been an update to that, there's been some changes, and I understand that the final documentation will be going to the Cheshire East Cabinet meeting in October. And I would like to ask that as part of our continued liaison with our colleagues in the Cheshire East Council planning team, that we ask for a briefing on the SADPD and how that impacts us as a town council and a statutory consultee on planning matters. It may be that briefing can be combined with our meeting to discuss the character assessment, which would be useful if that could happen. But if not, I would like us to have a briefing on the SADPD so we can be very clear in our continued work as a statutory consultee that we understand the changes and that we're able to take those on board in our discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to thank the administrator for this, for the sending out of all these policies, which I think were previously borough council policies, and that we may have time to examine where does the town council fit into these policies, as some may not apply to us and some may, and the publication of these policies, how the town council, which is still young, will adapt or not adapt these policies that are really borough policies. Welcome to Councillor Edwards. Have you anything that you wish to add to the meeting?
No, I don't think so. Thank you, Chairman.
You don't think so? Right.
Sorry, we've just been discussing item 7 for Councillor Edwards' benefit. So I will seek that meeting then to further discussion.
Right.
Sorry to interrupt. Can we also include a briefing on the SADPD
Yes.
in that request? Thank you.
Yes. I think on the item on that's item 8 and 8.1 changes to the current planning system has been covered now, or does anybody else want? It's not been covered? Yes, Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, item 8 is the report back from our working group, who have had a look at our planning consultation group, where we've had a look at the latest government planning consultation, and we had, as you were there yourself, of course, and we worked on that, and this report has come back now for the planning committee to approve it, and then it can be submitted to the government. I was going to say before Councillor David Edwards arrived, there wouldn't be, that we'd find it maybe difficult to comment on it because we were all part of that working group. So I would really be very interested to hear Councillor Edwards' comments on what we've produced and what we intend to send to the government as our response. So we've still got that to do yet, Chairman. Thank you.
Right, and so that comment will be coming in the future, not now. Now it's for us now here in this planning committee to say approve the report back from the working group. Yeah, of course.
I would say that obviously, as a member of the committee who didn't take part in the working group, I'd be interested to hear Councillor Edwards' comments, and if there is anything that he
wishes to say,
feels he wishes to change or to improve on, or So yes, thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards.
I just want to say that I have read through it, and I fully support the decisions. I think it's an excellent report, and our comments are excellent, and I fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to Councillor Hutchinson as well for chairing it and all that. Yes, Councillor Wilson.
Yes, thanks, Councillor Edwards, for your observations, because when you sat on the working group, it's good to have your homework marked by other colleagues. I want to, first of all, thank Mike for chairing the meeting and guiding us through what is a very technical consultation. I think that we managed, with the excellent support from the Admin and Governance Manager. I want to thank Harriet as well, because the preparation that she did supported the preparation that we'd all done in terms of looking at the consultation. There are two really key areas in there. One is about affordable housing and how affordable housing should be dealt with in the future. That is a matter this planning committee has really taken on board in our comments on applications and our representations to both Northern Planning and Strategic Planning committees. And then the other issue was about variations that are being proposed to deal with the COVID situation, which would significantly remove the ability to have affordable housing locally, which would be a massive detriment, particularly in this current time of crisis. And also, there are planning issues where it's clear that the government are intending to reduce significantly the involvement of both elected members and also the public, the neighbours, in terms of how their area should look. So I thought it was a very good meeting. I thought we tackled the complicated issues really well, and we were ably supported by Mike in chairing the meeting, and Harriet in the admin support she gave to us. I'm really pleased with the outcome and looking forward to our future meeting next week to look at the next document, which is more focusing on the actual planning for the future. And I think the planning for the future document is going to be right up our street in terms of the things that we're dealing with at every meeting we have. So thanks to all the participants in that, and I think it was a really good way of framing our response to the government consultation document, and I look forward to continuing our discussions next week on the next document, because it's three altogether, as we'll all be aware. So thank you.
And thank you too. And yes, I think it was a good meeting, and that affordable housing, the siting of them, the responsibilities to provide them. I am pleased at how the meeting went, and we looked at that, because there must be strong attention to provisions, fair and just and equal attention to those provisions. So I was glad I was there. I may not be at the next one, but there you go. Right, we can go on to correspondence.
Sorry, Chair, can we, would somebody like to move that the response is approved?
Yeah.
And do we have a seconder, please?
Can we have a vote? Am I allowed to vote? Chair?
Yes.
Chair, you chaired it, you're allowed to vote on it. You are the chairman.
Not at this meeting.
No, Mike's not currently a member of the planning committee. He's obviously
okay. Well, I agree with that, with it going forward.
So you're all in agreement that
yes.
that response goes forward to the consultation. Thank you. Yeah. I will submit that.
Correspondence.
None, Chair.
Members' items. None. Well, thank you. And while we have the date and time of the next meeting, I thank everybody for contributing and being there, and that we come to this end. And I think it's working very well. And thanks to Harriet and thanks to Mike before we go, and thanks to all of you. And the date and time of next meeting is on the 16th of October this year. And I would like to close the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.